Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, January the 12th, 2017. At this time, we're going to have housekeeping items. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99, and will be rebroadcast every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and Saturday at 12:30 p.m. and is available by video on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones and laptops. If you wish to speak tonight, you will need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. We're going to allot 10 minutes for those who speak in favor of a case and 10 minutes for those who speak in opposition of case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share the 10-minute slot and so forth. Please address the board and not the audience when you come to speak. Those applicants presenting their case are counted as those speaking in favor of the case and will share that 10-minute slot. At this time, we'll all rise for the invocation and pledge. Bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, as we meet to serve our community, we pray for wisdom and guidance to use our resources wisely, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility for the future of our county and the rights and needs of both individuals and the community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here tonight. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This time, we are going to have need a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following amendment: to add an additional agenda item to read planning and zoning staff needs.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the agenda with an additional agenda item to read planning and zoning staff needs. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the election of the board officials. Nominations are now in order for chair of the 2017 Zoning Advisory Board.
I would like to nominate Vicki Consiglio as chair of the Henry County Zoning Advisory Board.
Okay, do I hear any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, nominations are closed. There being no other nominations, Vicki Consiglio is chair by affirmation. Okay, now nominations are in order for vice chair of the 2017 Zoning Advisory Board.
I make a motion to appoint DeLander Nelson as our vice chairman.
Okay, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing no other nominations for vice chair, nominations are closed. DeLander Nelson is vice chair by affirmation. Nominations are now in order for secretary of the 2017 Zoning Advisory Board.
I would like to nominate Dante Gibbs as secretary of the Henry County Zoning Advisory Board.
Okay, do I hear any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, nominations are closed. Secretary Dante Gibbs is affirmed by affirmation. Okay, so we're going to go on to the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 10th and 17th 2016 Zoning Board meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the November 2016 Zoning Advisory Board meeting.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelson to approve the November 10th and 17th, 2016 minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay. At this time, we'll have staff comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to give an official welcome and congratulations to the new appointees to our Zoning Advisory Board. If you would raise your hand once I call your name, we have Mr. Simeon Nunnally. He is the appointee for Commission District 2. Congratulations and welcome aboard. We have Mr. Richard Fretwell. He is the appointee and representative of Commission District 1. Congratulations and welcome aboard. And we have Mr. Pete Peterson. He is the appointee of the chair and represents county at large. Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Welcome, thank you. At this time, we are going to move to the agenda items, and if staff will please call the first case.
Case number CU-16-10, Drew McCright of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 287 Rocky Creek Road in land lot 237 of the 6th District. The property consists of 3.45 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a wedding venue, and it is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Ms. Julie Yoder.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Excuse me. The conditional use before you tonight is for the property located at 287 Rocky Creek Road and is a conditional use for an event facility. The subject property that you can see hatched in green on the map is currently zoned RA, Residential Agricultural, and there have been no previous actions or rezoning requests for the subject property. The subject property is the applicant's current residence and has been utilized and is presently being utilized as an event facility for almost a year now. The applicant was initially told by Planning and Zoning that the weddings on site could be permitted with a special event permit. However, due to the volume of weddings now, the site needs to be advanced to an event facility. It does appear, however, that the subject property does not have the required road frontage of 60 feet and would need an approved variance for that should the conditional use be approved tonight. And with that said, planning staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with the following 4 conditions that I'll place on the overhead now. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from board members for staff at this time? All righty, I don't hear any questions, so if I could have the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Yep.
Hi, how y'all doing? I'm David McCright. My address is 287 Rocky Creek Road, Hampton, Georgia.
Okay, and was there anything you wanted to add to staff comments?
No, everything that she said pretty much sums it up. We built the facility last year. I did it for my daughter's wedding. And she had worked at a wedding venue for several years, and so we thought we could handle it on our own. We built it, and then we had a couple friends who wanted to get married. And then we said, let's venture out and see what we can do. There's nothing in Henry County like it at the time, especially the price range that we're in. All of her friends were leaving Henry County, McDonough, Hampton, Stockbridge. They were going to Noonan or to Barnesville and taking their dollars there to get married, using the florists from other counties, the photographers, the caterers, the hotels. And we thought it would be a great idea to try to keep those funds in Henry County where we live. You know, tax dollars here at home can never hurt the county. We also use it for quite a lot of fundraising and charities. We've done autism awareness. We've done children's cancer research. We've had a couple people launch their missionary trips, you know, fundraisers there, my other daughter included. We want it to be something the whole county can use. I didn't realize it was going to be as difficult as it is, but I understand why, and I'm willing, you know, whatever it takes to do, we're willing to go the extra mile to do it.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant at this time?
I have a question. Are you familiar with
And
the
Mr. Nunley?
conditions?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with the conditions?
With the conditional use? Yes. Ms. Yoder has expressed them to me and showed them to me. We've been dealing back and forth now for several months.
Okay. Do you have a certain time frame on when you think you'll be able to complete those conditions?
Time frame would depend mainly on funds, and the zoning board has told me I could do some weddings to bring some funds in, and all that money will be, of course.
So 6 months, 12 months?
I couldn't imagine any longer than 6 or 7 months.
This way.
Yeah, I mean, from the prices that we've kind of poked around and the things that we think we're gonna have to do, I think 6 or 7 months, we should be fine. I mean, I can't say for sure because I haven't got concrete prices.
It's on the
but
max. It's approximately,
the max,
yeah, maybe 9 months,
to be safe, I would say, yeah, 12 months.
12 months.
To make it safe for myself, yeah, I don't wanna.
Is there a way that we can add that into the conditions?
I guess we could.
Yes, at the discretion of the ZAD. You can add another condition and it be, reference the time frame that was discussed here.
You just need to make that part of your motion if
Right.
you so decide to do that, okay? Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, and there was a gentleman that's standing behind you. Did you want to give comment, or you want to wait till, okay, all right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to have the remaining of the 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. If you want to speak in favor of the case, so please come up and state your name and address for the record. Okay, for those who want to speak in opposition of the case, we're going to allow 10 minutes. For those who speak in opposition of the case, please come up and state your name and address for the record if you want to speak in opposition of the case. One at a time. You all share the 10 minutes, so whoever goes first, all right?
Okay, good evening. My name's Mike Gresham. I live at 340 Rocky Creek Drive, which is directly behind the subject property. My wife and I moved there in 2009, specifically because it was rural and very quiet, and that is no longer the case. That's our main objection, is the amount of noise that is that's incurred, and that essentially without very much regard for the people around there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case?
Good evening. I'm Karen Austin. I live at 273 Rocky Creek Road on this adjacent property right here. Every time they hold an event, my windows vibrate, the pieces around the house vibrate. I hear all noise until 11 o'clock. I have increased traffic flow in front of the house, which is disruptive. And according to this stipulation, now you're going to have to add a deceleration lane. That's going to be additional disruptive to my neighborhood. I have lived here in this neighborhood, in this property, since 1986. I like it that way. I'd like it to stay that way. That's why I live in Henry County, and I find this very disruptive. I do not want it a part of it, and would strongly request that you decline this motion because it's so disruptive to the neighbors and have not been in consideration of us. They have built a building that is right up against our property line, and they have some sewage that now runs into our property. And while that may not be your issue, that shows the disregard they have for their neighbors. And therefore, I strongly, strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case?
Good evening. My name is Clyde Kessinger. I live at 323 Rocky Creek Road. I'm about 400 feet south of where this wedding chapel's supposed to be.
Can you see that, where your residence is, if you don't mind? On see that map across? Well, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry.
We've been there since 1998.
So you're on the other side. Okay.
We've been there since 1998, and it's rural, agricultural. The noise, like this other young lady was saying, is unbelievable. At night, when they have rock concerts and live bands, it sounds like you're downtown at an event somewhere with people sitting on the lawn. I work a lot of hours, 70, 75 hours a week. I get up all times of the night to go to work. I have to get some sleep. You can't do it when they have an event. A wedding is one thing. I'm sure that everybody's nice and quiet. I wouldn't know they had a wedding if they didn't have something out in their mailbox. But the rock concerts, that's got to cease. So I vote against it. I strongly ask you, please, do not let this continue. Thank you.
There we go.
6 minutes.
That's 6 minutes. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case?
Hi, Pamela Barlow. I live at 205 Rocky Creek Road. I think I am. Where do I?
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's on the other side. of
Right,
the-
well, he's like to the back part of my property, and the noise is ridiculous at 11 and 12 at night. And it's just, it's, we live there.
If you can get in front of the microphone, because I can't
I'm
hear you.
sorry,
That's
we
okay.
live there and we want it to be kind of quiet, and that's why we've been there. I've been there since 1986 in that area. And this has got to stop. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Mark Stevens. We live at 405 Rocky Creek Drive. From what I can tell from all the folks ahead of us, we're at the farthest away, and we still have issues with the sound. It's quite loud. No disrespect to the others, but it's not rock concerts, it's weddings too. We've heard people, I assume, DJ microphone usage, they sound intoxicated. There's an increase in traffic. The bus crows off the road for an hour because it went off the road into the ditch once. And a lot of activity with golf carts during the day. I don't know what that's about, but the noise is terrible. We have dogs and critters. The dogs won't even go out at night when they're having one of their events, which is an issue. We have to wait till the event is essentially over and the place is quiet for the dogs to go out. The thumping, I know you're aware of the type of music that's played at these type events, so very disruptive. Thank you.
Sir, can I get you to see that map? I don't know, it's on the other side of the, and just show me where your residence is that you said you can hear, if you can see it on there. So you're behind it?
Right there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm sorry, right here. Right here.
Oh, you're on the, okay,
We're
okay.
way on the other side of Rocky Creek Drive.
Drive, okay, you're on Rocky Creek, okay, all right, thank you.
My name is Mary Ward. I live at 404 Rocky Creek, and see that. It's right here. So we're a good distance from them. 10 o'clock at night, I'm hearing boom, 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 boom from the music. It bothers me. It's a residential area. I cannot see having a business like this if it was just weddings, which typically are nice and quiet, but it's the different kind of music and whatever function they decide to have. And I'd like to ask, is alcohol to be served at this?
That was something we'll have to ask the applicant later, so I can't
Okay.
answer that question.
I'd like to know that. Please do not do this to our neighbor, to our neighborhood. I can't imagine the people who live right next door. As far down as I live, I hear it. We don't need that kind of thing in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case?
Frank Austin. I live next door to him. I'm at 273, which is right here.
Can you just say your complete address, please?
Do what?
Your complete address, can you repeat?
273 Rocky Creek Road. Okay, we got a bunch of the noise, the extra traffic, people in and out. I don't know about anybody else. I don't like 100 strangers coming through and basically walking into my backyard to party. The wedding itself is not as big a deal as the parties afterwards and the parties before and the other events they're holding. I have a real big concern too now with you saying we're going to add a lane to the road. Okay, now, where is this lane going to come from? Whose property is it going to come off of? Are they going to come in there and county condemn my property to put in this extra turn lane so that they're able to have a wedding venue in the middle of a residential area? It just doesn't make good sense to me. I am strongly in opposition to this due to the traffic and the noise and all the loud partying going on. It's in my backyard. okay? And I just want to strongly urge you to vote against it. We need to turn this down. If we need a wedding venue and party venue, it needs to be in a more commercialized area of town. Because next week, you'll end up with another application for a convenience store across the street. I don't want my neighborhood turning into that. I bought a nice, quiet place. I want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the case? Okay, I don't see anyone else coming up. Do any of the board members have any other questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
I have a question for staff.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Are you aware of any complaints at all, noise complaints or anything?
I haven't heard anything from code enforcement. I don't know if they reported, if you heard anything.
As of right now, I have not received any direct complaints via code enforcement. We do have a noise ordinance, and Henry County PD can be notified in the event that it's after hours,
Sir, you need to be seated, please. You're out of order. Thank you.
and they're potentially violating the noise ordinance. And then during normal business hours, if code enforcement is available, then code enforcement needs to be notified if there's a potential noise ordinance violation.
I also have a question for the applicant. Would he come back?
Okay, well, if we can ask the applicant to please come forward.
Although staff is not aware of it, have you had any complaints at all? Have code enforcement, police, or anyone been out in reference to any noise problems at all?
No, sir.
None
Not-
at all?
Code enforcement has been out.
Okay.
My daughter got married October 24th of 2015. Her best friend got married 6 weeks later in December. Code enforcement showed up to inquiring about whether we had an illegal facility. I had already spoken with Adrian at zoning and asked her, I said, do I have to have a permit? My daughter's best friend's getting married here. She's practically family. And they said, is it for profit? And I said, no, she's just a friend. She's getting married here. It's a small wedding. They said, no. Someone called. They came out. The gentleman walked around. We showed him who it was that got married, and that was into that. That's the only time they've been out. Two more things I'd like to add. We have an officer.
All we have to do is just answer the question he asked. We're not
Okay.
allowed to,
Okay.
add anything else. Just a second. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Risher?
Yes, I have a question for staff, and I think, David, this would probably be directed to you. According to the plat we have in our book, Rocky Creek Road is a 60-foot right-of-way. Would you anticipate that a decel lane would be contained within that 60-foot right-of-way?
A 60-foot right-of-way typically is 30 feet each side of the center line of the road. A decel lane, the back of it, the back edge, 24 feet from center line. If it's got curb and gutter, it'd be 26. But typically, you may have some grading that may land outside of a 60-foot right-of-way when you have to do a deceleration lane. And if I might add, technically the deceleration lane, if this is considered a commercial usage, would be a requirement in code. Putting it as a zoning condition, Dante, correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably maybe redundant to place it as a zoning condition if it's already something that's in the code you'd have to do anyway. And potentially we may look at tweaking some of that code anyway. I would say probably at least 3/4 of folks that come to the site probably come from Georgia 20, so it'd be left turns instead of decel right turns. So the decel lane would be for northbound vehicles headed towards Georgia 20 that would turn right into the site, which is probably not his major traffic movement into the site. But technically, it's in the code right now as being required for a commercial development on a collector or above roadway, which Rocky Creek is. So But your original question is very tight to try and put a decel lane in a 60-foot right-of-way. It's not impossible, but it's got a lot to do with topography as to whether or not you can get in without grading or something spilling over onto someone's property outside a right-of-way.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time? Okay, there was another question, but I don't think it had to do anything with zoning, and it had to do with alcoholic beverages, and I don't know that we can answer that, so that would have to be asked of somebody else somewhere else. Okay, you may be seated. Let's call the case, please.
Case number CU-16-10, Drew McCrite of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 287 Rocky Creek Road in land lot 237 of the 6th District. The property consists of 3.45 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a wedding and charity venue. The property is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Ms. Julie Yoder.
Okay, you have a motion for this case?
I would like to make a motion to deny the application's request.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Nunley to deny the, this request. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. All those opposed? Okay, all right, motion carried. All right, next case, please.
Case number VR-16-16, Jodico Road, United Methodist Church of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for property located at 1500 Jodico Road in land lot 44 of the 6th District. The property consists of 11.62 plus or minus acres, and the request is for an illuminated sign in the residential zoning district. The property is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The property before you tonight is the Jodico Road United Methodist Church. The map that's displayed before you at this time is the tax map. The subject property is indicated in the green hatched mark. This is Jodico Road here. Running through the middle of the subject property is the power line easement. And to kind of give you some context, this north-south road here is Flippin Road. The request is for an illuminated sign in a residential zoning district. The map that's illustrated before you at this time is the zoning map. And again, you can see the subject property in the green hatched mark. And note that the zoning of the property is RA, which is residential agricultural, which is a residential zoning district. The church itself has a conditional use special permit. And so it's allowed to have a sign, but because it's still in a residential zoning district, that sign is not allowed to be illuminated. And that's part of our Unified Land Development Code. The sign that's proposed is illustrated on the overhead, and it's a sign that would otherwise be permittable as far as height and width and area and so forth, but it is proposed to be an LED sign. One could call this a reader board with a changeable message, which is considered to be illuminated, and that's not allowed. And so the applicant is requesting a variance. Illustrated before you at this time is the site plan. It shows Jodico Road here. It shows the church toward the middle of the subject property. Again, you can see the power line easements running through the middle of the subject property. The applicants have a current sign, and it's located here. So it's to the right of the driveway as you turn into the subject property. The new sign is proposed to be on the left-hand side where the yellow highlighting is here. And if you can see from this picture, this is the existing sign, which is also internally illuminated. And this picture shows the location of the proposed sign, which would be on the other side of the driveway. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request trying to stay very close with the provisions and the requirements of the ordinance. This is not technically a varianceable item according to the code. The applicant has not demonstrated an undue hardship, and so staff does recommend denial of the applicant's request.
Okay, do I have any comments, any questions from the board members for staff at this time? Okay, Mr. Fretwell?
You were saying this is not a backlit or not a uplit sign?
It's internally illuminated, and
It's LED like a starlight sign?
yes. Yes, so it's internally illuminated here, but toward the bottom of the sign, it's a movable reader board type of monochromatic illuminated sign.
Similar to some of the ones they have in McDonough Square?
I know that some of the ones on McDonough Square are multicolored. If I understand correctly, this one will be monochromatic, but it would be able to change the copy.
But it's the LED type?
Yes, sir.
Signs.
And again, this variance is to allow any type of illumination, whether it's externally illuminated or internally illuminated. And if the church had to permit the sign that they have today at this time, they would need a variance to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Is the current sign that they have, is it in accordance to code?
I'm certain that at the time that it was permitted, that it was allowed by code. Our Unified Land Development Code has been in effect since September of 2009, and I'm certain that the existing sign predates that.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay. I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Shirley Tyree at 15 Pates Lake Way in Hampton, and I filled out the application for the variance for our church. And the people from our church that provide the services, we wanted a sign that we could promote the services that we provide to the county. That's not just for the members of our church, but the community itself. And when I went and looked around, because I do variances for developers and whatnot, I found that although it is residential, they have a strip mall across the street. They have this power line, so there's virtually no homes next to the property. They have some storage with pressure washing equipment. The Judico Baptist Church has that neon sign, and they have the sign like we want to do. So we thought that the variance board would make an allowance since everybody else has one, and the church behind my house on Jonesboro Road, it has a sign like what we want as well. And it's residential. So I don't know where the law came in, and we had gotten a sign made because nobody knew about this ordinance that either changed or they found out about it. But I would like to present members of my church that would like to give all the services that they provide.
Okay, we'll call up, if you are finished with your presentation, then we'll give the remaining 10 minutes for those who wish to come and speak, if that's okay. Okay, so we're gonna have you to be seated. And so we have 7 minutes and 39 seconds for anyone else who wants to come and speak in favor of the case.
My name is Jim Berstetta. My address is 153 Stratford Circle in Stockbridge. I'm a facilitator for a mental health support group that meets at Jodico Road United Methodist Church every Thursday night. In fact, they're meeting tonight. We are grateful to the church for allowing us to use their facilities. These NAMI support groups are the only groups currently meeting south of the airport. They are very important. With a new sign, we will be allowed to show information about when our meetings meet, make more people aware of the work that we are doing, will help the community. It's just being able to show we are meeting there. NAMI is a very important organization in the National Alliance on Mental Illness, very important, and we want people to be aware of it. As things stand now with our current sign, we cannot advertise on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and speak in favor of the case?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I'm Larry Turner, and I live at 145 Willow Way, and I attend Jodico Road United Methodist Church. We got into this situation because we hired a sign company because we knew nothing about signs. They were supposed to give us a turnkey job on this sign, and they didn't. And when the going got rough and they came down here to get the permit, and they found out after the sign was built that we couldn't put it in, they turned it over to us. So we've been struggling with it ever since. We've came to the zoning board and did everything they asked, had our property resurveyed, numerous things that we've done to try to appease what they said we needed to do. It's another case of that. We didn't know what we were doing. We hired somebody that we thought knew what they were doing, and they didn't. So we've got a sign sitting here now waiting to be put in, and we're seeing that we're not going to be able to put it in. Now, the reason we need this sign is the current sign is unreadable as people go by at the speed limit that's posted. The sign we have is severely restricted due to embankment and brush growth when you're approaching from 75. We cannot, you have to manually change this sign. You have to go out there in all types of weather, change the sign, and the church is actually 1/8 of a mile from the sign, so somebody has to walk that every day to change the sign. The church, as well as all of the community organizations that we support, like Boy Scouts, NAMI, Daisies, Brownies, Girl Scouts, cancer support groups, Grief Share, NA groups, meet here regularly. We're not able to promote them because we don't have room on our sign, and we can't promote the community services that we provide simply because we don't have room. I would ask you guys to take that into consideration. We're trying to be good neighbors. We've told everybody that we'll raise, plant Leland cypress, whatever we need to do to be good neighbors with this sign. But we are in a spot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the case?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Brad Hammonds. I am the Scoutmaster for Troop 165. I'm also the den leader for our Webelos out of our Pack 165 for Cub Scout program. I'm here tonight to basically voice my support in favor of the signage that we've been discussing. The proposed sign will inform the community of the scouting programs available to them at or through Jodico Road United Methodist Church. Speaking from experience, I can tell you that the type of exposure this sign can bring to our programs is invaluable. Typically, our recruiting efforts are limited to word of mouth or recruitment nights at local schools. Recruitment nights are often held during the week and shortly after school, so that makes it real difficult for working parents to attend. Also, the way recruitment works sometimes, we're recruiting out of our school and we may not be the closest program to them. and it may not be all that convenient. So with this sign, we are informing the community that here's a local scouting program that is in their neighborhood and is serving their community. The mission of Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of Scout Oath and Scout Law. Those values are trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. These are all values that we teach all of our kids. From the scouting program, we are here to reinforce those values through the programs that we offer. We just would like to make sure that the community that we live in is aware of the opportunities that await them and their family. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a few little minutes left.
My name is Eric Glazer. I live at 150 Acadian Drive, right here on the map. I attend Jodica Road United Methodist Church weekly. I'm a member. And I would hope that the board would approve this sign strictly in the nature of that our neighborhood is very well protected from light, noise, with the trees and shrubbery that is planted around our neighborhood. I consider our neighborhood to live in the woods. Hear very little noise from Jodica Road or even the church when I'm not there. And I personally feel that this sign, the light from this sign will not make a difference to me or my neighbors. And I would strongly encourage you guys to approve this sign for the benefit of our church and for what our church can provide the community. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Hello, my name is Shawana Vera. I'm a troop leader for 15005, a Girl Scout troop, and I oppose.
Your
Oh.
name and address for the record.
My name is Shawana Vera.
And your address?
I'm a Girl Scout troop leader for 15005, and my troop actually meets on Saturday.
What's your address? I'm asking for your address.
Oh, 210 Adams Circle. I'm sorry, 210 Adams Circle, McDonough, Georgia.
Okay.
And we're a troop that meets on Saturday, and I post this sign. They have been very supportive and letting us, building the community, helping us build the community with the girls. And so I oppose to this sign.
Thank you. We got 20 seconds. Anyone want to come up in 20 seconds? State your name and address for the record.
George Shadow, 541 Ivy Lane, Stockbridge, Georgia. I attend a 12-step fellowship that has been meeting at Jodica United Methodist Church for 15 years now. I attend it because I am addicted, and my recovery is contingent upon that. Jodica Road has been very good to the recovery community, and the sign is in hopes.
Cut you off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. For those who want to speak in opposition in case, please come forward. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. I'd like to know if the board members have any questions, additional questions for staff or the applicant. I don't see or hear anyone wanting to have any questions, so we're going to go ahead and call the case.
Case number VR-16-16, Jodica Road, United Methodist Church of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a variance from development standards for property located at 1500 Jodica Road in land lot 44 of the 6th District. The property consists of 11.62 plus or minus acres, and the request is for an illuminated sign in the residential zoning district and is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill.
Do we have a motion for this case?
I would like to make a motion to approve the sign.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Nunley to approve VR 16-16. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, and then those denying the motion, raise your hand. Okay, the motion did not pass. All right, I'll need another motion for this case. since that motion didn't pass.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to follow staff recommendation that this case be denied.
We have a motion for denial by Mr. Nelson. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Bailey. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, the motion carried. Next case, please.
Case number, do you want me to wait for a second? Okay. Case number VR-16-17, Gloria Bernal Fernandez of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for the property located at 3904 Jotico Road in Land Lot 66 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.16 plus or minus acres, and the request is for variances from lot size, lot width, setbacks, and parking requirements. The request is in District 3 and will be presented by Mr. Dante Gibbs.
Good evening, Madam Chair and ZAB members. I know this is kind of a rare occasion. Usually I'm sitting over there, but we're a little bit short-staffed, and so thank you for what you added to the agenda tonight, first and foremost. This case has to do with an existing building on a C1 zone property, and basically what happened is there was a business that was there, and this lot is what we call legally non-conforming, in that it does not meet the dimensional standards for our current zoning requirements for a C1 zone lot. The proposed use on this property is permitted in the C1 zoning district, but because the lot does not meet the minimum requirements for a C1 zone lot, it is what we call legal non-conforming. So because of the previous business being there and then ceasing to exist, there's a clause in our code that states, in the event that a business that's on a legal non-conforming lot ceases to exist for 6 months, or it lapses for 6 months, and they do not renew their business license within that time frame, then if there's a request for the use that's permitted in that zoning district, that they have to conform and comply with our current regulations. So that's what brings us here tonight for this variance request. The use is permitted that they're asking for, which I believe is a retail or some type of potential recreational use. It's just that the lot is legal non-conforming for no reason, no fault of the applicant's own. So in order for them to be in compliance with our current regulations, they're asking for these variances from our development regs. So with that said, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request, and I'd be happy to entertain and answer any questions you have at this time.
Do any of the board members have any questions for staff? Mr. Risher.
Yes, in researching the files, did you find any evidence of any prior, prior zoning action on this property?
No, sir. In your staff report, the zoning history, we summarized that there was no previous zoning request submitted for this subject property.
Just a comment further, I would suspect that that this structure, as well as many others in this section of Daly's Mill Road, were really built at or prior to 1963 when the county first adopted zoning. So there's a lot of non-conforming structures like this.
Yes, that will be accurate.
I have a question. It's just in my mind. So the variance, so let's say if it's approved, does it just follow this business, or would it follow all along? So in other words, so if this business went out of business, would someone else have to come in and get a variance since it's still non-conforming?
Yes, basically this variance will run with the use that's being requested.
Okay.
And so technically, once the variance is in place, the lot will become conforming with these variances. So it'll be in the file. So if someone else comes and they are proposing a different use that is permitted in C1, it will already have the variance in place to facilitate the use.
Okay, so as long as it's a C1, the variance will follow.
As long as it's a permitted use per the land use code.
Okay.
And the variance is in place for this lot.
So it follows the property as long as it's a C1?
Yes.
Okay, so no one else has to come in and ask for a variance because if it's non-conforming. Okay, that's what I needed to know. All right, I don't have any more questions. Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, we'll ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Nolasco. I'm gonna speak on behalf of my mother, Gloria Bernal
I need your
Fernandez.
address, please.
1105 Northern Run, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281.
Okay.
My mother bought this property with retirement money that she had. We saw an opportunity and we decided to go ahead and purchase this property. We don't know anything about commercial property. We just called the county zoning and planning and asked what zone it was. They said C1. You know, I didn't look any further than that. When we fixed the property up, somebody called to rent the place because we're looking to rent the place to, you know, retail or office space. They went to the county to see the permits, and then they were told that the ordinance and the codes were not up to date, and they basically we couldn't put anything in there. So we're stuck, and I'm asking that you approve this so my mother would have an income, since this is retirement money that she's put in all her effort in. That'll be all. Sorry.
Okay. Do any of the board members, you want to stop the time? Do any of the board members want have any questions for the applicant? Okay. I do have a question. And Dante, I apologize. I should have asked this. I just looked down and saw this, and I had a question about it. It says eliminate off-street parking requirement. That's one of the requests, and I guess I don't really understand what that means. There's no parking available, or?
If you look at the map on the overhead and see where the building is, and as it in proximity to Jodico Road, there's no room to meet the required parking. So basically, what they would need to do is come in and see me for the administrative waiver for the type 4 parking, which allows me either 5% or 5 spaces, whichever is greater. So once the variance is in place, and they can come to me and for the administrative waiver.
And you could do that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then that's all I needed to know. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for applicant or staff? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to allow additional comments for that 10-minute slot for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. Now we're going to allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Okay, yep. Don't see anyone coming up. Do any of the board members have any other questions for staff or applicant at this time? Okay, not seeing any request for any further comments, we'll go ahead and call the case.
DR 1617, Gloria Bernal Fernandez of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for the property located at 3904 Jodico Road in land lot 66 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.16 plus or minus acres, and the request is for variances from lot size, lot width, setbacks, and parking requirements. This was District 3, and the report was presented by Dante Gibbs, Director.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the variance request.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher to approve the variance request. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Mr. Fretwell. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carries. Okay, next case.
Thank you,
please.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And real quick, I forgot earlier, congratulations to the reappointees to the Zoning Advisory Board.
Thank you. Okay, next case, please.
AM 1608, Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a comprehensive plan amendment for the property located at 3198 Jodico Road in land lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 1.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from medium-density residential to commercial in land lot 79 of the 6th District. This is District 3, and the report is presented by Julie Yoder, planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
The comprehensive plan amendment before you this evening is for the property located at 3198 Jodico Road. As you can see here, it's actually this property. And the request is to change from medium-density residential to commercial. The applicant has recently combined the subject property with her property directly north, fronting on Jodico Road, Zone C2, which is this property in red, which I'm using a red pen so you can see it. So those are technically one property now, so it's split zoned. The subject property itself is currently zoned R3, single-family residential. And the applicant is requesting C2 general commercial and a rezoning case following this one. The use of the subject property will be in conjunction with a daycare, which sits currently on the northern property fronting Jodico. The number of children that will be allowed at the daycare is decided by the amount of indoor and outdoor play area. So the subject property will provide a portion of the outdoor play area. A structure will not be built on this lot, and no new construction is proposed. So with that said, staff recommends approval of the comp plan change, and I will take any questions you have now.
Any of the board members have any questions for staff at this time? Mr. Risher?
Yes, on this property that's, currently behind the daycare center, that will only be used as an outdoor play area, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, which it is right now, based on the
I believe the
field
fence
visits
and everything's already there. She just needs it to be rezoned to be able to use it for her daycare purposes.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? All right, would like to ask the applicant to please come forward.
Excuse me, I'm getting old. I didn't hear very well. I'm Leslie Girbano. I live at 568 North Ola Road in McDonough, Georgia. I do own this subject property for many, many years. The two lots, it was two lots. They were used as if they were one as a daycare facility. But the improvements on Jodico Road and on Meadowbrook took a large swath away from it. I was told by Miss Josephine in the planning, the planning department, a long time ago, that if I enjoyed these lots, it would meet the county requirements for an acre. So I did that, but it turned out that was the first that I realized. It was not a C2 lot. I bought it. The IRS had sold the property for payroll taxes. I bought it. You don't have much time for due diligence, but they sold it as one C2 lot. So now I'm still having problems. You were kind enough to grant me a variance so that we could have a daycare there, but now the state has come in and they won't allow a state license for a daycare there. They insist that they cannot tell how much of this is commercial and how much isn't. Miss Yoder from the planning department has just been so cooperative with them. I have too, but they still insist they are not going to let me use it unless I get the whole business done. Now, the little finger, it has been joined, it's one lot now. The little finger down on the, that is the R3, is not suitable for a house. It does not meet the requirements for setback. There is no sewage available. I have attempted to have an additional septic tank put in for a better use of the main property. It is not suitable. The soil is not suitable to support a leach line and septic tank. Let me see if I can find this here. On that corner, there is a huge drainage basin with an enormous pipe, which of course, it's not on my property. It was one of the things that was taken, but it makes it totally unsuitable for a residential property. Apparently this property cannot be used without this rezoning. I have tried everything. I've been working with it for 3 years. This property is approved for 75 children. That is very, very badly needed daycare services for 50 or 60 families. It also will provide 10 or 12 full-time, year-round jobs. And that is something that community needs is jobs. So it seems to me we could get so much help to that community just by rezoning. There's another thing. Every single parcel on that block from Meadowbrook down Jodico all the way to the freeway, every one of those businesses except for the Hardee's sandwich store and the a used tire business, all the others are vacant and going to rack and ruin. This is a very large property there that would immediately abate some of that. You'd have a really nice, busy business going there on one corner and Hardee's going on the other corner. It would help a lot to avoid the blight that is really fast approaching on that block. I really, really ask you to do this for me and to do it for the Meadowbrook community. These jobs are needed. This daycare is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you stay up, Ms. Geronimo? Please stay up here. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
Not at this time.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, now you may be seated. We don't have
Thank
any
you.
questions. How much time do we have left? 5:20. Okay, for any of those who want to speak in favor of the case, we have about 5 more minutes for anyone who wants to come and speak in favor of the case. Okay, and now we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who might want to speak in opposition of the case. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. So I'm assuming that the board members don't have any other questions for staff or the applicant. If not, we're going to go ahead and call the case.
Case number COMP-AM-16-08. Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a comprehensive plan amendment for property located at 3198 Jodico Road and land lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 1.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from medium-density residential to commercial. The property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Ms. Julie Yoder.
Okay, do I have a motion for this case?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive land use plan amendment as requested by the applicant.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher to approve the comp amendment plan as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Fretwell. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, next case, please.
Case number RZ-16-31, Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from R3, single-family residence, to C2, general commercial, for property located at 3198 Jodico Road in land lot 79 of 6th District. The property consists of 1.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a daycare facility. And the property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Ms. Julie Yoder.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
The rezoning before you tonight is the associated request to the comprehensive plan amendment you just heard. Only the subject property presently zoned R3 is to be rezoned to C2. There's no rezoning record or any conditions on the property that we could find. This request will allow the subject property to be used in conjunction with a daycare. Just for reference, the applicant did apply and receive a variance on July 14th, 2016 for the property fronting Jodico Road, presently zoned C2. No structures are intended to be built on the subject property. With that said, planning staff recommends approval of C2 for the subject property, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions for staff from board? Mr. Risher?
Well, yes, just a comment, really, but the Meadowbrook subdivision was probably one of the first subdivisions that was developed in Henry County, probably starting in the late 1950s and early 1960s. And I would say that probably none of the lots in the subdivision are conforming, certainly with current standards. It was originally a zoning that's district that no longer exists, called RM 75, which allowed not only single-family homes but also mobile homes and even duplexes and multifamily all in one mixed bag. So you know, that's what we're faced with here, is trying to make something out of basically parcels that are not conforming by current standards and definitions.
Okay, any other comments or questions for staff? Okay, if I can ask the applicant to please come back forward. And go ahead and state your name again and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm Leslie Germano. I live at 568 North Ola Road in McDonough. I am the owner of the property at 3198 Jodica Road.
Did you want to add anything to staff comments?
My comments are pretty much the same as I made a few minutes ago. This is something that is really, really needed, that needs some action down there on that block. I would appreciate anything that you could do toward approval on this, and I thank you for approval of the first request.
Okay, any questions for the applicant from board members? Mr. Risher?
Yes. Now, currently this this property is used as the outdoor play area. How would you feel about?
When it is used, that's what it's used for. Right. The primary purpose of that property, when there is a fire drill, the children must be evacuated as quickly and safely as possible to the furthest point from the fire. And usually that is the property that's used for that.
Okay, well, that was my question, is that would you have any objection, even though that you want it zoned commercial, that the use be restricted only to the outside play area?
I have no objection at all to that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant from board members? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
And I'm going to again ask for any one of those who want to come up and speak in favor of this request. Please come forward. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. We'll allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition. All right, I don't see anyone coming forward. Do any of the board members or have any questions for staff or applicant? Okay, let's go ahead and call the case.
Case number RZ-16-31, Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from R3 Single Family Residence to C2 General Commercial for property located at 3198 Jodica Road in land lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 1.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is for daycare. And the property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Ms. Julie Yoder.
Have a motion for this case?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the subject parcel for the C2 zoning with the stipulation that it be only used for an outside play area for the daycare center.
I have a motion by Mr. Risher to approve the rezoning and with a stipulation to only use it for outside play area. Is there a second?
A second.
Have a second by Mr. Nunley. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the case, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, thank you. Next case.
Case number RZ-16-29, Kevin and Alicia Waters of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to M2 Heavy Manufacturing for the property located at 58 Old Stagecoach Road in land lot 92 of the 12th District. The property consists of 1.687 plus or minus acres, and the request is for steel fabrication. The property is located in Commission District 5 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Russo, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The case before you tonight is a request for rezoning from RA to M2, and as such, this is a request for a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, which would be scheduled at a later date. As illustrated on the overhead, this is the zoning map. The subject property is located here, which is indicated in the green hatch marks. It's located on Old Stagecoach Road, which parallels the railroad tracks, and it intersects Valley Hill Road, close to where there's the intersection with East Atlanta Road. The subject property is zoned RA. However, it appears that the subject property has been developed for a non-residential purpose, and it's staff's understanding that the use of the subject property since the development has been largely for storage. The request, as I understand, is to allow the use of the subject property for steel fabrication, which would require an M2 heavy manufacturing zoning district. And so that's the background for the request. Staff has noted the zoning of the area and how it's largely residential on the west side of Old Stagecoach Road, with the exception of the abutting property immediately to the north, which is also owned by the applicants, which is Zone C3. However, this adjoining property has not been developed, and at this time it's just vacant. On the east side of Old Stagecoach Road, which backs up to the railroad tracks itself, these properties are largely non-residential and specifically industrial in nature, and several of these properties on the east side of Old Stagecoach Road are within the city limits of Stockbridge. However, staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and in addition, giving consideration to the future land use map, which calls for low-density residential, and which this body had recommended to remain low-density residential, and so staff recommends denial of the applicant's request for rezoning. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Do any board members have any questions for staff at this time?
I do.
Mr. Nelson?
Stacy, let me ask, what's different about this rezoning opposed to the one that we looked at last month?
Yes, sir. The previous hearing was for the future land use map. And so the applicant wished to request a change from low-density residential to industrial. And since the future land use map is the county's policy guide, that change to an industrial designation would support the request for rezoning. However, that request has not yet been heard by the Board of Commissioners, and this body recommended denial of the change from low-density residential to industrial. And so at this time, that policy guide calls for low-density residential land uses for this subject property.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I understand the process. Okay, so we're waiting for Board of Commissioners to change the future land use request for industrial. Is that a correct statement? No.
Madam Chair, what we're waiting on is, one, for the comprehensive plan amendment that was already heard by the zoning advisory board to be placed on the next available agenda for the Board of Commissioners. It was placed on the previous Board of Commissioners agenda, but the applicant did request to table it formally in writing, and they've also taken care of the tabling fee. So what they are wanting to do is for both that comp plan amendment and this rezoning case to go to the Board of Commissioners on the same night at the same time. So what you'll have is the recommendation from the ZAB for the previous case, and then tonight's recommendation going at the same time and presented to the BOC.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for staff? All right, I will ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Alicia Waters at 295 East Mays Road. And while I know that some of you may have already heard our request last month for the comprehensive plan and it was denied, we do have a number of new items that we are presenting this evening that will actually support our request. So, and I also know that it is not normal, from what I understand, for a rezoning change to be allowed once a comprehensive plan has been denied. However, I do know that there are cases where it has occurred. So I request kindly the Board of Commissioners and Madam Chair to please listen with an open mind and an unbiased opinion to what we have to present. Thank you for that. For those that may not be aware of our property, we do have photos to show our subject property. And as Mr. Jordan mentioned, the property has been used as storage. When we purchased the property back in 2011, the property already had this building on it. And so I actually went to the zoning department requesting a zoning change because I was under the impression it had to be zoned. At that time, they told us for the storage uses that we want to use it at, we did not need to make a change to it. So they were nice enough to write us a letter to that effect, stating that we did not have to change the zoning that it was at that time for us to be able to use it. Fast forward several years later, we actually, my husband and I, do a lot of volunteer work that we're not working out of it as much as we had been in the past. We have a friend that would like to do some steel fabricating out of it, which is why we're here today. So the picture that you have in front of you is our subject property. Just to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with the property around us, this is directly across the street from us. It is zoned M1. It is a pallet manufacturing company. Then also across the street from us, next to the left of the pallet manufacturing company, that is our mailbox you can see there. That is a cell phone tower. And then directly to the north of that, where you can see, oh, can you turn it the other way? You can see the cell phone tower. You can also see just up the road, which is also M1, those two buildings. That is Stockbridge Iron, which is currently a metal manufacturer and steel company as well. And that is Stockbridge Iron right there. To the left or to the north of Stockbridge Iron are also offices that are also zoned M1. Then if you pull out of our driveway and go to the right or go to the south, we also have OAR, which is a wood recycle company, that environmental recycle company. And then you can also see the railroad crossing there in that photo as well. Across the street from our property on the other side of the railroad tracks, you can see Rico's Mexican restaurant. And actually the next photo, it was taken from Rico's parking lot. You can see our subject property right in front of you. And the next photo shows we are standing on our property, shows the proximity of our property to the railroad crossing itself. Now you ask why that's important, and I'd like to play a quick video to show you why that's important. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. 104.6, 104.6 decibels.
in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and stop it, but the video actually goes on for about 3 minutes, and that train lasted about 15 minutes. And just to let you know how we actually got that footage, because we had tried numerous times and weren't able to, we just couldn't get the timing right. I actually was at the other end of Old Stagecoach Road where all of the residential is, in the back part. And I know last time, I believe it was Madam Chair that mentioned, curious why or how the other neighbors felt about it, the subdivision. I told my husband that the train was coming. I could never hear the horn from where I was sitting at the end of that little cul-de-sac. Excuse me. So, despite our best efforts, I contacted Norfolk Southern numerous times. I was not able to get an actual traffic train count. However, over the course of 5 days, for up to 2 hours each day, we actually staked it out to see how often a train comes through there. I know in our last meeting, Mr. Risher mentioned that he thought a train went by 50 to 60 times. Well, actually, over the course of what we measured, there's an average of 4 trains that go through an hour. They do run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that would be 72 times in a 24-hour time period that you would be hearing that train horn. Can you imagine that train horn playing 72 times when you're trying to sleep, eat, work, talk, play, whatever? In addition, there are numerous health risks that are associated with living near a train tracks. Those can be asthma, cancer. Living near a train can significantly impact and disrupt your routine activities, your sleep deprivation, and as you heard on there, the required pattern for blowing the horn is 2 long, 1 short, and 1 long sounding horn repeated as necessary, so that may even be repeated more than that. I know the Stockbridge City Code of Ordinances, while we are a couple parcels outside the Stockbridge city limits, for RA, the permissible sound decibels during the day are 55 and 50 in the evening. As you heard, my husband had his decibel reader. The reading was 104.6. So whatever sort of activity should occur there as far as business, I can assure you we would not be contributing negatively to the noise impact in the neighborhood. The first 13 parcels, there's actually only 2 houses. And the one house to the north of us is, can you put that down there? Is actually owned by Tommy Hancock. He was nice enough to write us a letter of support. And that letter reads, "To whom it may concern, I am Thomas Hancock. Hammock. I own the properties at 115 and 125 Old Stagecoach Road in Stockbridge, Georgia. Kevin Waters has been a great neighbor, and I've enjoyed the improvements he has made in the property he owns on Old Stagecoach Road. I would more than welcome it being developed into commercial. As you may already be aware, Stockbridge Iron is across the street, and there's a pallet company across from Kevin's property, as well as cell phone tower between the two. If you have any questions or concerns on this matter, please feel free to contact me." As was also mentioned in the paperwork you may have received from the zoning department, they had several critical points. Critical point number 3 was that the positive effects of the rezoning would include bringing the non-residential use of the subject property into compliance with its zoning designation. Criteria point number 5, the immediate north property is currently zone C3 and it is owned by us. And residential neighbors appear to be adequately buffered by existing vegetation. And I know our one neighbor who is to the south of us, which I have a letter from that I will read from them as well, they have said that they've never heard us there. We sit quite a bit higher than they do, and we have a lot of trees between us that they do not ever hear us there. Number 8 was that there is existing M1 and C3 zoned property in the immediate vicinity of our subject property. And criteria point number 9, use of the subject property for the residential use may be inhibited by the close proximity of surrounding non-residential uses of the railroad. So please understand that the only reason we are asking for M2 is to allow for metal fabrication. Otherwise, we would not be asking for such an intense zoning request. We are willing to concede everything else that is specifically required for M2, which should include planting and sawmills, cosmetic and pharmaceutical storage and production, asphalt and concrete batching, central mixing plants for cement, mortar, plaster, recycling centers, support for agricultural, many including surface and subsurface strip mining. So the only reason we are asking for such an intense rezoning is for the allowance of steel manufacturing, which is currently done down the street, so that our friend can allow to operate there. Our friend does not have any signage. I know, he doesn't have any signage, nor does he have any customer traffic. He just fabricates steel on premise and then goes and builds it up at various facilities. And not allowing us to rezone would, unfortunately, we feel, condemn our property. From speaking to numerous realtors, because they feel like that property is not marketable as a residential facility because of the proximity. One of the realtor actually said, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, let's call it what it is. So we do have some photos of what our property could look like if it was landscaped, because again, we feel like we have the best property on the block, on the area already. But again, not to saying it couldn't be improved on. We would be happy to put some trees or whatever can make the zoning department happy, so that we are contributing positively to the neighborhood. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with is we do have a letter from our neighbor to the south, which is Charlotte and Phil Ingram. They actually live at the property to the south, and their letter describes who the previous owners were, the house that had been there. Can you turn that at all?
You won't get the whole picture.
Okay, well, I'll read it. To whom it may concern, my name is Charlotte Ingram. My husband and I have lived at 23 Old Stagecoach Road, Stockbridge, Georgia, for over 30 years. Since our time living here, we have known of 3 owners to the adjacent property located to the north of us at 58 Old Stagecoach Road. The family that we knew to first live on the property did not keep up their property and home at all. They had dogs running loose. These dogs attacked and killed several animals that we had on our property. In addition, the police had made several visits to the house during the time the family lived there. As we were located outside the city limits, they never appeared to pay for garbage pickup, and thus their trash was thrown on the property. Their second owners of the property continued to take care of their house and property in the same manner as the previous owners. They had, I'm sorry, in the interest of time, I'm going to summarize. The second owners never paid for trash service either, so there was never trash service on that property for 30 years. So the next point says that they were ecstatic when we purchased the property.
Okay, that's your time. But you can submit that, she can submit that letter.
Okay, I'd be happy to.
Each of those letters to planning and zoning, we can add that to the file.
Yeah, that can
Thank
add to the file. Okay, you may be seated. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant at this time? Mr. Risher.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the type of metal fabrication that's going to be done in this facility? And would it be limited to inside the building only? And then I'll ask staff what type of fabrication activities are allowed within the M1 light industrial district as opposed to M2. But go ahead and answer my question first.
Okay, my name is Kevin Waters. Good evening, Madam and Chairman of the Board. At 295 East Mays Road, Stockbridge, Georgia. So to answer your question, Mr. Risher, Jeff Proctor, our friend who is the party named in wanting to buy our property to turn it into this zoning that we're requesting, what he does is he cuts the steel, the beams and C-channel and flat stock, and then welds it into pre-formed frame members. They're loaded onto a flatbed truck. Then they're taken to a job zone, sometimes in Georgia, sometimes perhaps out of state into Tennessee, South Carolina. That is what is considered to be steel fabrication or steel manufacturing even in M2. Unfortunately, it's not manufacturing steel at all, what he does, but for Georgia zoning laws, that's where that falls into place. It's simply cutting and welding steel.
Is all of this work restricted inside the building?
Inside the building, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions
Yeah,
for?
I do have a question for staff. Staff, now, being that this is predating a business actually going in for metal fabrication, if it's zone M2, does that follow the the property itself, or does that follow any business?
The zoning of the property runs with the property, not with the business.
So at any point, they could put anything that falls up under M2, am I correct?
Yes, sir, unless there are specific conditions.
Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify that, if there's a condition to limit the use of the zoning to just the metal fabrication, then that follows that property
Right.
the whole time?
We're
Okay,
s-
and it can't be used for anything else? I'm asking staff that question, just for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if it's to be used for anything else, someone else would have to come in and get rezoning, modification for rezoning. Okay, that, I just need to get a clarification of that. Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
I'm still waiting for a response.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. So there are several uses that are allowed in both M1 and M2. And I think that was your question, Mr. Risher, is what sort of M1 uses would be allowed under this M2 designation. And this list is not exhaustive by any means, but such M1 uses would be food, textiles, and related products, wood, paper, and printing products, cosmetic and pharmaceutical storage and production, electronic equipment, appliance and components manufacture, wholesale trade establishment, warehouse and storage services, construction-related businesses, including open storage, dry cleaning and laundering plants, and so forth. So it's typical for us to see in a situation like this where perhaps the recommendation would be to limit the M2 uses, but to allow all other M1 uses. But I would defer to the wisdom of the board.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for staff or applicant at this time? All right, you may be seated. Since the 10-minute allotment for those who are speaking in favor of the case has been used, we will now open it up for those who would want to speak in opposition of the case. If you want to speak in opposition of the case, please come forward. We don't see anyone coming forward. At this time, if there's no other questions for staff or the applicant, we'll go ahead and call the case.
Case number RZ-16-29, Kevin and Alicia Waters of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to M2 Heavy Manufacturing for property located at 58 Old Stagecoach Road in land lot 92 of the 12th District. The property consists of 1.687 plus or minus acres, and the request is for steel fabrication. The property is located in Commission District 5 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsil, Chief Planner.
Do I have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we again follow staff recommendation of denial of this case due to the future land development.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nelson for denial of this case, and do I have a second?
I second that.
We have a second by Mr. Nunley. Any discussion? All those in favor of denial of this case, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, motion carried. All right, next case, please.
Case number RZ-16-38, Wade Homes Incorporated of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for the property located at 1623 Snapping Shoals Road in land lot 85 of the 8th District. The property consists of 14.91 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision in Commission District 3. The case is presented by Dante Gibbs, Director.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. Again, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from the subject properties that are highlighted, it looks to be green to me, on your zoning map here. From the current zoning of RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2. And they are proposing 14 lots on approximately 14.91 acres. With a net density of 1.2 dwelling units per acre, and the future land use map projects this property to be low-density residential, having a density of 1.22 dwelling units per acre. So what they are proposing regarding their net density of 1.2 dwelling units per acre or units per acre falls within the range of what the future land use map classifies as property. So that in itself supports what they're requesting. The minimum lot size for the R2 zoning is 30,000 square feet. The minimum house size for the R2 zoning is 1,800. There are 3 surrounding subdivisions or surrounding properties that have already set a precedence of R2 zoning in this area, and the applicant has actually expressed acceptance or a minimum of a 2,200 heated square foot home. So with that said, what I would like to do at this time is go through the conditions, but before I go through those, staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request to rezone this subject property from RA to R2. Bear with me. On the overhead is a copy of the conditions that are in your staff report. And what I would like to bring your attention to is condition number 2. After the staff reports are written, sometimes we have discussions with the applicants after the fact, and staff rehashes conditions to make them more agreeable between staff and the applicant. And in other cases, sometimes the respective commissioner may involve myself in discussions concerning conditions and what the applicant is proposing. So with that said, with condition number 2, what I would like to bring your attention to is at the end of that condition, I would like to say where feasible, and leave that to the engineering of each lot concerning side entry garages. And in some cases, lot dimensions, certain features, certain natural features prohibit two-car side entry garages. So we practice putting where feasible to leave that to the engineer to properly engineer the sites. The next condition I would like to bring your attention to is number 7. The applicant is agreeable to sodding the front and side yards, and they are also agreeable to seeding and strawing the rear yard. So what we have no objection to regarding this condition is for it to restate or state instead of what you see is front and side yards shall be sodded and the rear yard shall be seeded and strawed and maintained through germination and of grass seed that satisfies the building department assigned inspector. That way we can verify and make sure that there is no exposed soil in the rear yard and that there is legitimate vegetation covering it to minimize soil erosion and things like that. The next condition I would like to bring to your attention is number 10. Instead of it reading as written, we have no objection for it to read, Snapping Shoals Road is to be improved per section 80107B as amended, meeting county DOT standards. And with that said, I will be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. I got a question for staff.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Nunley, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
When you said where feasible, do you know approximately how many, some kind of guesstimation of how many houses will have those side entry garages?
I do not have that number. That is usually based on engineering. So once the engineers design the site and submit it to our development plan review department for review, at that time we will have an idea of what lots are potentially will be side entry and which will not. Given that it's 30,000 square feet, and I believe that the renderings we saw did show side entry. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'll be all side entry.
Okay. The applicant is here, and he's the builder, and so just a quick question that is answered. So all will be side entry.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Mr. Wisher.
Yes, it's my understanding that all or some of these homes will be ranch-style homes, that is, one story. Is that correct?
Are you asking me
or?
I'm
sorry. Yes, I'm
that would be a
asking
good
you.
question for the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if there are no other questions for staff, I'm going to call the applicant up. All right, please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
My name's Wade Crawford. I live at 491 North Bethany Road.
Okay, do you have anything you would like to add to staff's comments?
I really don't. He did a great job. What I would like to do is just maybe give a little bio of me and who I am and what I represent. I've been living in this county. I grew up in this county. I went to high school in this county. I graduated high school when there was only 2 high schools in this county. My dad, Dave Crawford, he was a county commissioner back in the early 90s. So as far as integrity, and honesty of who I am, that's what I'm all about. I'm a little nervous, so just bear with me. I've never been in a public place like this, but you know, this is really important to me. I grew up. I still live in the county. Both my children go to high school here. I've been building houses for over 25 years in the county. I take pride in what I do. I try to do the best job that I can. This is a little small project that I'm trying to do. I got a lot invested in it. I've got a lot of time built up in it, and you know, I'm looking to do something small, do something nice for the county. That the subdivision will be be a nice subdivision. It'll fit the the surrounding areas and the people that are living in the homes and some of the subdivisions around it to be something they'll be proud of. I'm actually currently building in a subdivision not 1,000 foot down the street. It's called Owens Crossing. I bought, back 3 years ago, I bought 30 lots in there. I've got 2 lots left. All the homes are in the mid 250s and above. They're all 4-sided brick. They're all street lights, sidewalks, sodded yards, and it turned out to be a really nice subdivision that all the buyers that have bought, they really like the subdivision. So I'm basically just trying to repeat that, in this little small subdivision that I'm trying to do.
Okay, are there any questions from board members for the applicant? Mr. Wisher, did you, or Mr. Nallenjani?
No, just my question from before. I was, told that some or all of these subdivisions might be, houses might be of the ranch-style homes. Is that?
That's correct. Currently, the homes that I built in Owens Crossing, I'm pretty much going to either build the same plans or similar. They are, I would say, probably 70% of the homes are ranch-style homes. Some of them do have a bedroom upstairs or a media room type upstairs, but I think in that subdivision I may have 2 plans that are actually 2-story plans. All the other ones are basically ranch style homes.
And I have a question for staff, if no one else, and maybe staff and applicant. On item number 7, was there a problem with all the disturbed areas being sodded, and why the backyard was supposed to be seeded and strawed and maintained for germination?
That may be a good question for Mr. Wade to kind of explain why he requested that of staff, and we have no objection to it.
And you said you have no objection to it?
No, we don't. We have no objection to the amended condition that I read earlier.
Okay.
What I would add about that, in Owens Crossing, that's basically what their requirements were. It was sodded front to the back drip line. And then what we were doing in there, we were actually seeding and strawing the backyards, but we were actually installing irrigation back there. So what that does is that just helps me as a builder, I guess, irrigate the the seed and straw where it actually germinates and actually grows. And then once the homeowner moves in, he can continue doing that. And we've had 0 problems with any kind of germination or any problems with as far as the grass growing back there. The only negative thing about that, and I guess it would be for the builder's part and the homeowner's part, the further we go back and clear, I find that the homeowners that are buying the homes, they want a backyard. So, of course, if we went back 50 yards or 70 yards, that's a lot of sod, and that's a really a big expense for the builder, and it just gets passed on to the buyers. And what I would rather give them a bigger yard and irrigate the backyard than give them, so to speak, a smaller backyard to save on site. You know what I mean? I would just think that would be, especially if the grass is growing and we haven't had any issues back there.
I guess the concern I have is an even playing field for all development, and when we're asking that all developments are fully solid because of recommendation from not the building department, but was it the building department?
There was discussion between the building department, planning and zoning, and I want to say county management regarding issues that resulted from other developments that seeded and strawed the rear yards, but didn't maintain it. They didn't see it through germination. So what basically in essence happened, the seed was thrown out, the straw was placed down, the birds ate the seed, rain came, soil eroded, issue after issue after issue. So the quick solution and the easiest solution that we all agreed on was to sod all disturbed areas. The proposed solution for this particular development is to seed and straw, but also maintain it so that it germinates and to make sure that that rear yard and the bare soil is stabilized with grass and seed, well, grass that's germinated, to minimize and prevent the issues that the building department has seen with other developments with the runoff, the rills, the soil, the silt, and what have you.
But that means that someone has to go out there to make sure that that is maintained, and whose responsibility is that?
It will be the builder's responsibility, and that's how we are going to condition it.
Okay.
Or that's how we have suggested the condition be.
Yeah, but I have that concern since, and you may have had a development before that decision was made, because we do have a problem in the county with that happening, and there's got a lot of runoff. And this is how we've addressed that with the Georgia Soil and Water. And we want to, make sure it's an equal playing field for all development going forward with the sod. And that's why I think I might have, a little bit of pushback on that condition, being amended. I just think that we need to, moving forward, and that also keeps from all the clear cutting that goes on. And that's what we're trying to prevent also, is where you go down and all the trees are down and it's just a bare lot. And then you're just, like I said, it's not germinated, somebody has to go and watch that, and then you got, more, to me, a burden on the building department to go out there to make sure that that's happening, especially if there's runoff, and then guarantee that that's not happening, and then you have to go back there and redo it again. I just don't see, sometimes we just don't see that happening. And we haven't seen it happen, so. That's the only reason we did that, so I just would have a problem with that condition being modified, number 7.
Can I respond to that? Or,
yeah.
Okay, I don't have.
It's not going to change my mind.
I mean, for me personally, I don't think I would have a problem with that. If the way I look at things, what's fair for me is, as long as it's fair for everybody else and everybody's playing by the same rules, right. I'm okay with that. So.
That's why, and that's what this, in fact, I think staff is the one that came up with that, because we kind of went round and round about how we wanted, because first we just said, you got to sod everything. We're like, well, we don't want somebody to tear down a tree just to put sod in, so we said all disturbed areas. So if you're not clearing all the land, obviously we don't, but if you clear it, we're saying, if you tear something, if you put it back, that's all we're asking. So okay. I'd rather that not be modified.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, so we're going to leave number 7 as it is?
I have no objection with either one, and just to offer a little bit of background as to why. As I stated earlier, sometimes after staff reports are written, myself, commissioners, county management will meet with the applicant, discuss conditions, and if there's no negative effect, if it doesn't cause any adverse conditions or issues, then usually we have no objection with modified conditions like this. And the way it is written, it's written in a manner that, one, it doesn't necessarily put in additional labor or work or requirements on our inspectors. They go out and inspect the homes as scheduled. It's just a matter of seeing and just monitoring and making sure that the seed is taking. And if it's not, then it will be the builder's responsibility to make sure they do everything that's necessary to either fertilize the soil, till it, reseed it, restraw it, but it will be their responsibility to see it through germination. And then that germination or the seed that has sprouted has to be verified by the inspector, which is just a matter of their routine inspections.
But I thought I heard him say he didn't have a problem with the way it was written as long as it's an even playing field.
Yeah,
We're requesting that for everybody else, and we have.
And
From the time we
that's
decided.
fine
Okay.
if he has no issue with that. Just going by the last conversation that we all had together. So if he's willing to go back to the original condition, that's fine as well.
Okay.
Now, I do have one question based on that. Now, are you saying you actually provide an irrigation system that, for the entire yard or just that backyard?
Yeah, for the entire yard. Yeah, what I do is I actually irrigate the whole yard, even the sodded, even the side, even the sides, the front. And so what I'll go ahead and do, a lot of the builders don't do this. I irrigate the backyard also, so that way, the buyers and me also don't have to pull hoses and sprinkler systems and move them around and things like that. So what happens is it's a better situation when you turn that irrigation on and it's watering that seed and straw. It's going to take. What happens when it don't take is because it's 100 degrees out there and the builder's not out there actually watering the seed and straw. Okay. Most of the time, that's what happens.
Now, on your current properties, are you ensuring that the seed does take, or are you just going saying, well, hey, I left you an irrigation system, or what are you doing?
No. What happens is when you get through the house and you get ready for your CO, you call your inspection in, and they also you've got your building inspector that comes out, and you've got your land disturbance inspector comes out. So when the land disturbance guy comes out and there's not standing grass in the yard, you don't pass inspection. So at that point, you have to have germination of the grass, and you have to have growing grass, or you don't get a CO. So basically, that's kind of how it works in the county right now. And that's what they do to make sure that you've got grass growing in that backyard.
And just to give my opinion, Madam Chair, I kind of like his system due to the fact that he's providing his trade-off is an irrigation system opposed to putting sod back there that may or may not grow. He's saying that he actually providing a coverage and an irrigation system that's going to be there for the homeowner. So, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, and I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to make a, equal playing field for all development going forward, since that was the request of the, of the building department, because they have gone out, they might give a CO and the grass may be growing at the time, but then they go back out and it's all dead and it's all gutted and it's rutted and it's nothing but bare ground because they don't know how to take care of it. It's already sodded, it's already there, and it's already got the stabilization, it's already growing. At least you've got that base. But when it's just seed and straw, sometimes if it's really, really dry and they don't irrigate it because they're trying to save on water, then maybe they've never owned a home, they don't realize that this is what they have to do. We're seeing a lot of that in the county. That's it. It's just an education on the part of the homeowner. And so the way we educate them is to say, okay, we want all these lots to be fully sodded so that we don't see this happening in our county. And then they're having to go out and ask you to re-sod it, to germinate it and things like that. We're just trying to prevent that. That's all.
Right, I understand. And I think probably you're going to find that a lot in higher density homes where they don't have a backyard really, and they're sodding the backyards. The only thing that I would say is what you're probably going to find from builders moving forward in R2 or R1. They're going to probably clear less land in the backyards for these homeowners because it's going to take more sod to give them, bigger backyards. I mean, if you,
want less clearing,
right.
So that it's all natural.
Right.
And I mean that's the whole purpose of it. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole purpose. That's why we want that in there. I mean, I don't want to sit here and just beat that, but there was a reason that, we asked staff to put that language in there, and we just like for it not to be altered.
Right.
But I appreciate everything that you're doing. I just don't know that going forward somebody else will, and they'll say, well, you let this guy do that.
Yeah, I wonder, and these are just opinions, but I mean, if I only cleared out, I'm just using numbers, 30 foot behind the house. Once the homeowner moves in and he starts doing more himself, what happens then? You know what I mean? What are they? I mean, how is the county going to make that homeowner sod that yard? I don't see how if they did the work themselves, if they rented a Bobcat and started clearing more trees out, how do you police that? I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be my problem because I've already sold the home and I've already passed inspection. But I'm just saying, moving with a homeowner, doing something more. You see what I'm saying, though? Yeah.
I do.
That would be the biggest battle for you.
Madam Chair,
I'm with the Lucas zoning, so.
for the record, about halfway into 2016 is when we shifted from sodding to the rear drip line and then seeding and strawing the remainder of the rear yard to all disturbed areas of the yard sodded. The sod requirement is not code; it's just suggested conditions. So it is at the discretion of the Zoning Advisory Board to make a recommendation, and it's also at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners to either approve, modify, amend, however they deem per their discretion concerning the conditions. So technically, you do have both situations in the county as a precedence and as a pattern that you can actually rely on. The sod, all disturbed areas sodded is relatively new. It's been on our list of potential conditions that we've had. That just hasn't been the practice up until about halfway through 2016. So that, for the record, that's just kind of how it was. So it's relatively new. So, but prior to that, it was to the rear drip line, as he stated earlier, and then the rear yards were seeded and strawed.
Yeah, and that's when it was brought to our attention. You know, we were just trying to address the situation that was going on in the county. It was rampant, basically. So that was why we did that. So we just want to make sure everybody understood. All right, Mr. Risher.
All we can do is enforce things up until the time that this, that the CO is issued, and after that, I don't think it's the county's responsibility to police the homeowners. You know, it's up to the HOA or the individual homeowners themselves. But I think once the CO's issued, we've done our part.
That's right.
Okay, any other questions for staff or the applicant at this time? Okay, you may be seated. And did he have any time left after his presentation? Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, anybody want to speak in opposition of this case? Okay, so if the board doesn't have any other questions for the applicant or staff, are we ready to call the case? All right, please call the case.
Case number RZ-16-38, Wade Homes Incorporated of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for the property located at 1623 Snapping Shoals Road in Land Lot 85 of the 8th District. The property consists of 14.91 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision, and the property is located in Commission District 3. The case was presented by Dante Gibbs, Director.
Can I do have a motion for this case?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for R2 zoning with all of the conditions that were listed in the staff's amended reports. That's the 12 conditions or requirements.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher for approval along with, I heard 12 conditions. Is that correct?
For clarity, is that as amended as I stated or as amended as they're written before
As stated in the report.
In the report?
Yes.
Okay, but not as I communicated in the presentation. When I read off the no objection to amending the certain conditions, number 7, number 2, and number 10, just want to make sure that we're clear on it so we can write the resolution. I mean, we can make sure the minutes are accurate.
Well, I think what my motion is, it's all of the conditions as described in the staff's amended report.
In the amended report, that's okay. So as it's written in the report.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat the motion. The motion is to approve the RZ 16-38 with conditions that were amended in staff report. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Richard?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
We have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, now we're going to go to item number 12, which is, that was an addition from an amendment motion, which is the planning and zoning staff needs motion.
Yes, Mrs. Chairman, I would like to make a recommendation that due to the increased number of planning and zoning cases, I would like to make the following motion, that the Zoning Advisory Board would like to recommend to the Henry County Board of Commissioners that funding be made available to the Planning and Zoning Department budget to add additional planners as needed to keep up with the demand of cases to be reviewed, so that the Zoning Advisory Board meeting can be held on a monthly basis.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher. Do I have a second?
A second.
Have a second by Mr. Nunley. Any discussion? Everybody understands what we're voting for? All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by raising your hand. A motion carried. Okay, all right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we adjourn. Thank you.